Good evening, everyone. It's so lovely to see you here. We're super excited about tonight. We're running it a little bit differently to how we did last year. We're going to have a few very short talks, so I'm not going to talk at you for long. And then you're going to get the opportunity to go around the school, see the heads of department, and discuss and talk to them about what's on offer in year 7 and 8. And I think brilliantly, all our year 8 children are here and they are super excited to share their work with you. So make sure that you drop in and have a good chat and question them. They're ready to show you everything. For me, I'm a real advocate of year 7 and 8 in prep school because I believe it's the 2 years where children can really shine. In terms of their developmental stage, life is really intense for them at this age. They feel everything much more intensely than they would have done before, and they have feelings, I suppose, of vulnerability, a bit of self-doubt starts to kick in, you know, all those things that you get when your hormones are flying around the place. In particular, nowadays, I think the biggest change for me is in terms of their, I suppose, social worries. They are hyper aware of where they fit within their year group. So they feel that pressure to be the best at this. Am I the prettiest? Am I the tallest? Am I the shortest? And they've got all of this going around. They feel embarrassed if they say something that to them seems silly. They feel it as if it's something really terrible, and they hold on to that for much longer than they did when they were little. And they haven't got the skills yet to be able to deal with it, I suppose, effectively. And they need a bit more nurturing, I think, to be honest. You know, body image starts happening. You know, you've got children developing at all different ages, some developing in their body, some not, questioning, well, why am I developing and why am I not developing? And all of that stuff going on. And then, you know, because of the system in the UK in terms of learning, they've got this huge amount of academic pressure as well. They're being tested and prepared for tests. So on top of all the social stuff, they've got all this academic pressure, you know, to perform basically. And that's a big deal when you're only 11 or 12 years old. And then I find this interesting. All the research shows that at this age, they have a real fear of the unknown, of what's going to happen in the future, and particularly in terms of their parents. And the research talks about them being old enough to learn about, for example, how bad vaping is for you, how bad it is to be on your mobile phone for a long time. And they're looking at their parents and people within their families and worried that, oh my goodness, is something going to happen to them? All of this is going on. And that's all outside the whole thing with social media, which I think is the biggest change, as we all know, over the last 5-10 years. Children are seeing and hearing trillions of information's coming at them all the time, and they have to absorb it, listen to it, and then decide what they're going to do with it. And I think that's a huge thing. So one of my main reasons for thinking year 7 and 8 in prep school is really important, is that they're protected from all of that. There are no phones at school, they're not around older children, so they're not hearing the language. And I think that that is really, really powerful. They get to be at the top of the school, so they get all of the leadership stuff that you don't get when you're young in a big senior school. And when they go in year 9, they're just better prepared and more ready for it. So that, I think, is my main reason for thinking, you know, we want the children to remain as children, really, for as long as they possibly can. All of that stuff's going to come to them later, all the social media, everything, growing up. So actually 2 years to just be at the top of the school, be themselves, and actually find out who they really are. And that's what happens. I would say the offer in year 7 and 8 in terms of academic rigour and the whole social aspect is excellent, and certainly the feedback from our senior schools says that our children are very, very well prepared, so they get that real accelerated learning in year 7 and 8. I'm not going to talk anymore, I'm going to let other people do that. So we've got 2 very important people here this evening. So we've got Steve Marshall-Taylor, who is the head of Brighton College, so you're very welcome. And we've got Owain Jones, who is from Hurstpierpoint, head of middle school, and they're both going to talk to you this evening. But first of all, I think I'm going to hand over to Steve. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to champion the top 2 years, Year 7 and 8, here at Holmewood House. As you can imagine, I speak to lots of parents from different backgrounds, all, and particularly in prep schools, all trying to think through what is the right next step and ultimately trying to find the right senior school for their son or daughter. And I'm sure you, like they, are weighing up all sorts of different priorities, trying to work out what will be the best school. But in the process of that, trying to think through what are your non-negotiables. You're probably weighing up how do you make a busy family work, how do you juggle other children. You might have for a particular child a certain academic subject or a certain area of interest, like our brilliant musicians or sport. It could be all sorts of things you're weighing up. In my time at Brighton, I've come across a few quite niche priorities in inverted commas. One family came towards me and said that they were looking for a school where their child would be able to fly the various birds of prey that they had, and I had to disappoint them and say, I'm afraid, unfortunately, we couldn't accommodate that. Another family said to me that they felt like their child would settle best if they could bring with them one of their alpacas. And again, I had to disappoint them and say we did have other means of helping them settle in to senior school. But you're going to work out what your non-negotiables are, and lots of things to weigh up. What I've observed is there is a temptation, a growing temptation for parents in prep schools to try to get things sorted, and actually a very understandable temptation to think, gosh, I'd just like to get it all sorted, to know where my son or daughter's going, and then we don't need to think about it anymore. But with that then comes the temptation perhaps to get it sorted earlier than actually you need to. And one of my main messages actually is to relax, if you like, to trust not only the process, but trust the amazing school that you're in. And I'll say a bit more about that in just a moment. Yes, I suppose behind the scenes, again, I'm just going to reveal what I've seen as well across lots of prep schools, which is more and more senior schools actually not necessarily playing fair and encouraging parents to feel that sense of anxiety, rush to get things sorted, encouraging parents to move their children earlier and earlier. And I'll let you into a secret, that's not actually motivated, in my view, by what's best for your children, but as you can imagine, more by those senior schools wanting to get people into their school as soon as possible. So I'm really encouraging you not to rush away from an amazing place where you are, and I'm going to set out a few simple reasons why I think that's the case. Ruth's already mentioned, Years 7 and 8, there is a lot going on for the children, lots of changes on every different level. I've got now 3 teenage daughters, and I've lived that sort of roller coaster experience firsthand. There are all sorts of physiological changes, friendship changes, their interests change, they're growing up in all sorts of ways. I've seen through many years of teaching in secondary school, boys sometimes at that age morph into monosyllabic, grunting, wonderful, but slightly different than you might have experienced young teenage boys. Girls, in my experience, have morphed into much louder, interesting, almost, as I mentioned, on a roller coaster, and that's one of the reasons why I love swimming in the sea so much, where there's lots of lovely peace and quiet, and nobody can get to me. But I think these changes mean actually that the environment in which those things are taking place is absolutely crucial. Things that you thought they were always comfortable in, confident in, can at that point change in different ways, for the better, for the worse, but there just are changes that go on at that moment. And you want to, I think, know that your children are in an environment where they're known, where they've got people around them who have known them for a number of years, who have seen them do lots of different things, who can roll with one or two of those different changes, and ultimately who know them and who know you. I'm just going to finish with talking about 3 things. There are 3 things that I talk about a lot in my school in Brighton, but I know they're really important here in Holmewood as well. Just, I suppose, because I think these 3 things you want to champion for your children here at Year 7 and 8. So these 3 things we talk about at Brighton a lot. Curiosity is the first one, asking questions. And I think we know, and research has shown, that as children grow up, they go from when they're very little and they ask questions relentlessly, almost to the point of distraction, that wonderful quality of young children. But as children grow up, research has shown that they ask fewer and fewer questions, to the point where devices, technology, social media, not only do you not need to ask the question, but algorithms are predicting things we might have asked before we've even asked them. And you want your children to be in an environment where they can ask questions, where they're not going to worry about being silly, being seen to be silly because they've asked a question that somebody else thinks was a bit stupid. To be in that environment, as I said, where staff know them, other children know them, and they can continue to be curious, that childlike quality of being curious, and you know that will be nurtured. The second value we talk about a lot at Brighton is confidence. So curiosity, confidence. Again, we know that actually all the way through, and if we're honest, and not just beyond teenage years, but as adults as well, confidence can be a very fragile commodity. All sorts of things can build our confidence or shake our confidence. And particularly at that age, through years 6, 7, 8, we know that it's really vital that our children are in an environment where that confidence is going to be nurtured. People who know them are going to have a little quiet word and say, you did that brilliantly in that lesson at the end of a match, seeing that their confidence has taken a bit of a knock, and go towards them to make sure that they feel built up again. So academically, socially, with friends, you want them to be in an environment where that fragile confidence can be nurtured and built up. So curiosity, confidence, and our third value we talk a lot about is kindness, as I know here. And again, the relationships, the importance of the people around our children, to be kind towards them, to encourage them to look outside of themselves and to be kind, to be supportive. And Ruth mentioned it already, but that ability in year 7 and 8 to see that education isn't just about themselves, that's when they get the opportunity to, whether it's prefect, reading, but actually maybe doing some work with younger ones, almost sort of mentoring, buddying. It's sowing seeds in them that will actually last a lifetime, and they see that education is not just about themselves. They've got a role to play in education, in the world around them, that is bigger than just them. And the seeds of that are sown in year 7 and 8, I think. So I should wrap up. You've got it all here. Don't rush away, please. Trust the wisdom, trust the experience, trust the relationships that the school has with us as senior schools to find the best school for your child. And at Brighton, obviously, and I'm not just saying this, we really love pupils from Holmewood, but they only come to us in year 9. And the reason they do so well with us, and they do, try not to look at somebody in particular, but they do brilliantly with us because they've actually had that extra time here. They've had those top 2 years, and they really fly. They flourish once they're with us in year 9. So thank you for your time. Lots of other people to hear from, so I shall pass over. Who am I passing back? Passing over to you.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm here to talk about all things learning and teaching, which is the bit that I get really excited about. Just for your reference, I've worked in a school that goes up to year 6, I've worked in schools that go all the way up to 18, and I really thoroughly love working in prep schools that go up to year 8. And the reason for that is because year 7 and 8 is such a vital 2 years. It can be really transformative to our children. So I want to talk to you about why, and why I feel really passionately that it's important to stay in the prep school until year 7 and 8. So if I was a parent and I was considering where I was going to place my child, I think, me being me, I would think about the neurological development that my child is going through at the moment. Now, there's a very busy slide behind me, which I know is not a good idea when you're making slides. So I have printed this, and on exit, everyone's going to get a copy of this to take away. But these are some of the key things that are going on in the preteen brain. So the preteen brain is quite complex, and basically this period of life where you're going from sort of 10 to 13, not for everybody, but predominantly 10 to 13, your whole brain is rewiring in this process that only happens once in your life. So it's a very unique process, and it can be very, very exciting, but also quite unsettling at the same time. So your brain rewires basically from the back to the front. And what that means is different areas of your brain will work in different ways and might be sort of put on pause while they're doing the synaptic pruning or whatever it might be in that area. One key thing that I would sort of point out is while your frontal lobe, so your frontal lobe is what's in charge of making lots of decisions, while your frontal lobe is developing, your decision-making process actually shifts to the amygdala, which is at the back, at the bottom. And that is the place where emotions are processed, which is why we see in preteens lots of decisions not really being made on rational reasons. They're predominantly for emotional reasons. So that's something that our staff, being really passionate about year 7 and 8, understand about the children, and we can accommodate those changes that are happening for the children at that time at this school. I think it's really vital to keep children in a time of internal instability in an environment which is externally stable. I think that's really important because you've got the relationships both with the peers but also with the staff who know your children. The staff who work with the year 7s and 8s have been working with them predominantly from year 5, so they have a very good understanding of that child. They therefore know what is typical and atypical for that child, and they're able to work with them in order to support them in the most appropriate way. As I say, all this information is going to be given to you as you leave, so you're very welcome to peruse it at your leisure. That's just a quick example of some of the things that we do to tailor the education at year 7 and 8 to those children and their needs in the preteen brain. I next, again, want to show you a busy slide, but thinking about the children that we have today and the stresses and challenges of the children today are vastly different from even the stresses from last year. There's always something new that's coming up. It's evolving quickly. But in addition to that, we also have the business of the future and the jobs market of the future. Now, education is not about just getting ready for your future job. It's definitely about learning and enjoying the process of learning, but we do need to keep in mind the future and where things are going. There's a huge amount of change going on in the markets at the moment, and I don't imagine they will slow down at all. But one trend that does seem to come out regularly is the importance of soft skills or human skills, depending on what you prefer to call it. So soft skills are absolutely vital, and moving forward, our traditional curriculums are based predominantly on knowledge. The shift that is being recommended is a shift towards skills-based learning and being able to act on certain skills. Knowledge is still really important, but skills are important too. With this in mind, I would like to introduce a new curriculum that we have put together for our year 7s and 8s, which is called Holmewood Horizons. That is specifically tailored with a view to supporting the children and their neurological development as we know it and as we see it in the school, and tying that to what we feel is going to be important and what research shows is going to be important in the jobs market in the future. There are plenty of things going on here, but this will mean that we are going to be moving away from the common entrance. Now, one of our main responsibilities is to ensure that our children have access into the senior schools that are most appropriate to them. The move away from the common entrance has been orchestrated and created by our heads of department who are experts in their area, but they have also liaised with the heads of department across the names that you can see at the back, all of those schools as well, who, when we did speak to them about moving away from common entrance, breathed a sigh of relief almost unanimously because they were really excited to see about where education could go, and they feel that common entrance is not necessarily preparing the children for the curriculums that they're meeting once they get to senior school. So this will be, we already moved away in the humanities to do our enriched humanities program, which has been a huge success. So this move away will now be for the maths, the English, the science and the languages. We're going to ensure that there's a high academic rigor involved in those new curriculums, and we started to put together some really interesting lessons. Those heads of departments, I've been working closely with them to ensure that, but also that all the experiences of learning integrate with soft skills and the human skills, which will be the currency of the future. Assessments will still be an important part of our schooling life, much to the children's disappointment, but that's because assessment weeks are really important, and coping with being assessed is important too. But we will also be offering things like coursework, which are more akin to what children will be doing when they get to GCSE. So that's a quick summary of the exciting things that have been happening. But as you speak to the heads of department, as you go around the school today, you're very welcome to speak to them about what they've been doing, developing those areas for them. Another thing I want to talk to you about, which is a bespoke provision for our year 7s and 8s. This was new this year, and it was basically a reimagining of what scholarship should look like. So the Scholarship Readiness Programme is a much more inclusive programme which seeks out to support themes of leadership, excellence, enrichment, curiosity, and encouraging creativity as well. We offer this programme across the domains that you can see behind me, and information about this goes to parents typically early February. So you'll be getting more information about these things, but I'm just highlighting that we do it at this school. We already had some of our fantastic music scholars playing earlier, and they're absolutely phenomenal. We have the art scholars and the DT scholars. They're going to be set up after the talks, and you can go and speak to them. Drama and sport are already very visible at the school. So Mrs. Porritt is here if you have any questions for her, and Mr. Brackenborough is very happy to answer any questions as well, but that's all available for you to explore later. So as I say, the programme is to promote engagement. It is inclusive, not exclusive. It encourages leadership, inspires individuals, and generate a collective identity. Going for scholarship is really difficult, and for children, particularly given the neurological developments that are going on for them, it's really important that they do feel like they have people who've got their back and they have that social network and that social strength. A quick fun fact that came in today was for drama, we have had 6 Year 8s going for drama scholarships this year, which is quite a high number. Thus far, 5 of them have gained it. There's only 1 left, and that's because she hasn't sat it yet, and we have really good hopes for her as well. So we think that the inclusive element of it is really strong, and the feedback thus far from the children on these programmes has been really positive. Finally, I want to talk to you about our enrichment curriculum, which has been 2 years in an evolution. This is where the My World element of the My Heart, My Mind, My World, which is the umbrella for everything that happens at Holmewood, really gets to be strengthened. So we have some ring-fence time to develop skills that are important for world readiness. In Year 7, as you can see behind me, there's lots going on. I think it's quite an important, again, to learn not only how to agree but also how to disagree, which is where debating comes in, which is one of my faves. But many skills there that are all supposed to be supportive to the future and supporting our children when they get to senior school in Year 9 with knowing what to do. Once you get to Year 8, the first half term is solely for leadership skills. So the children take a rigorous module where they go through various different skills that they would need as leaders of the school. It is their time to be big fish in small ponds, and that is truly transformative for our children. We also study exam skills and other things that you can see on the screen. But the last thing I want to talk to you about is the personal enrichment project, which is what the children are currently embarking on. The children get to research anything that they would like, and they have a few months to do that, and we have various lessons set aside to develop those research skills, which is something that our senior schools are saying the children are arriving without much knowledge of. So we're supporting them in that process to be ready for their senior schools. This also follows the trajectory that you would see on the EPQ, the extended project qualification, There's various forms of that, and they are recognised by senior schools and universities. So it's really important that we do this and we do this well. Finally, we get the Leavers programme, which Mr. Jervis will talk to you about a little bit later. But all those things are really exciting. I'm going to be available for any questions at the end of this session in the theatre foyer. I do hope that on your way out, you take on the piano, there's a map of the school, and we have open rooms available around the school where there are Year 8s and Year 7s ready to tell you all about their learning. They are currently, obviously, on the Common Entrance curriculum, but looking to explore those other options moving forward. They're very excited to talk to you, so please do take a map which will showcase where you can go, and on the back there's that brain that I showed at the beginning, but I will be available if you have any questions. I'm going to hand over now to Owain.
Lovely to see you all. So thank you very much for welcoming me here this evening. It's actually my second time here this year. Here a couple of months ago at the Open Fair, we were looking at different senior schools. So my name's Owain Jones. I'm the head of middle school at Hurst. So at Hurst, we're a large independent school catering for both day and boarders. And so most pupils coming from this neck of the woods tend to be our flexi and our weekly boarders. We are a through school, so we cater from the very, very little ones in reception all the way up to the giants up in the upper 6th, but our main entry point is there in Year 9, and that's why I'm here today to talk about that entry point there. I know that's a massive decision for you, 11 plus, 13 plus, but as Steve has talked about, for us and for Brighton as well, the entry from Holmewood is very much looking at that 13 plus point. So I spend a lot of time talking to parents, talking to prep schools about the values of those year 7 and 8 programs. As you've heard from Nell, there are some brilliant things going on for those pupils who are at the top of their schools. And I've sort of distilled my thoughts down to 4 key areas. The first being around preparing pupils for the transition. The second being helping that continuity of the prep school time. Thirdly, the leadership opportunities. And finally, the idea that you can prolong that childhood for as long as possible. So in terms of preparing for that transition, as you're probably very aware, the application processes for senior schools, start back in year 6. Assessment days, pre-tests, all going on. A busy period. It seems very young. They're only this big, yet they're thinking about what they're doing in 2-3 years' time. But actually, that gives you time to prepare. It gives you time as a family to work out what that's going to look like for you. But probably more importantly, your children get time to digest what's actually going to happen to them. They talk to their pals on the playground. They talk to their teachers at school. All those people get to hear about the adventure that's to come for them. And all that does for them is solidify the thoughts in their mind around what is to come and how brilliant it's going to be. It's not a snap decision. It's something that's well planned, and that transition is ready for them. So secondly, on to continuity. So the teachers here know your children better than anybody else. They've been here for years. They know them in and out, day in, day out. They are preparing them for the world that lies ahead for them. Actually holding on to that for another couple of years is so important. They are going to enter that big world. They're going to enter a big senior school at some point. But actually holding on to those key members of staff, those key relationships at school is such an important thing. Leadership opportunities. So one of those strongest points about prep schools, particularly year 7s and 8s, is the opportunity to be a leader. Prefects, house captains, leading clubs, leading societies, teaching younger children, just generally being a role model, develop such important skills for your children. We benefit from it at senior schools because we get to see them come through our way. Now, I spend a lot of time interviewing our scholarship applicants. They sit there with these blazers weighed down by their badges and their pins, everything's hanging off their left-hand side. Amazing, absolutely fantastic, showing everything they get up to. Sadly, when they get into year 9, into their big senior schools, it doesn't quite seem so cool. They seem to do away with those badges and actually focus on maybe some more of those social interactions. But how lovely that those year 7s, year 8s put such value in their work that they want to wear it on their chest. At Hurst, we're very proud of that all-round education that our children receive. Our year 9s are super busy. Alongside all their academic studies, they're doing a hugely broad co-curricular programme. That might be the Shell musical. It might be our year 9 performing arts programme. It might be our Myriad sports programme, sports opportunities, all those things are fantastic. But in reality, the opportunities for them to be leaders, to be prefects, are somewhat limited back in those early years. They are going to be at the top of the school in a few years' time, and at that point, they probably take on those prefect roles, those lead roles in the plays, that sort of thing. Here, they get to do it day in, day out, because that is what this place is set up for. There's also the element of numbers as well. They go into a senior school, there's going to be 100, 150, 200 pupils in their year group. Realistically, all 200 are not going to be a prefect. Here, smaller numbers allow every individual to have something special for them in those leadership areas. And actually, as you've heard from Nell, those new leadership programs helping all pupils through that process. And then finally, it's prolonging childhood. I'm sure as you've all been very well aware, childhood goes too quickly. They grow up fast. And actually helping them to stay in an environment where they get to be children for that little bit longer is really important. They will all join senior school at some point. That is a brilliant world, but it is not the fun, playful, childlike world that a prep school can help nurture. Now, that's not to say the academic progress isn't important. It's hugely important, but it's doing it alongside that emotional education where they can grow up in that safe, nurturing environment with staff around them who really want to support them. So I would just like to finish by welcoming any of you to ask any questions later on as we walk around the school. I'll be here for the evening, so please do pop over and have a chat about any of the questions you may have. We see lots of pupils joining us from Holmewood every year. I know Brighton do the same. Steve and I were discussing it just now, actually, and they are brilliant. They're brilliant people because they've been well prepared by the team that are here. And we would really like to keep maintaining that relationship because those prep schools that feed into our year 9 are so important to us.
Hello, everyone. Right. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the pastoral wellbeing and care side. We see our year 7, 8s as almost teenagers. They're given that state of continual conflict, change they find themselves in. We know from a social standpoint this is connected to the limbic system of the brain actually changing, the idea of the fact that the amygdala changes, it's developing. Apologies to anyone who hasn't been through this yet. The fact that it will be spiky, they will say a different answer to the same question on a different day, but we are set up to help with that. But that is obviously very common in those preteen years. They're starting to form their own opinions as young adults based on what they're seeing in front of them, rather than that idea of imitation, copying what they've been told. So we see that as really healthy. They desire and yearn independence. They don't want to be watched all the time, told what to do. But strangely, in contrast, they still really want that idea of belonging, that pack, that tutor group, which is really strong to them. They're essentially looking to form their own identity. In the same way, they're taking that inspiration by what they think, what they see, and from the people around them. So what would the children in year 7 and 8 typically look to do? They try to learn from experiences and start taking more risks. And we see some of that best learning coming from things which actually didn't go right, where they've learned and reflected from it. They become more aware of the world around them and how they should interact, and at the same time develop empathy for others. They develop leadership and teamworking skills. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. They develop the idea of being persistent and resilient, but also know when to ask for help. They develop the confidence to question as well as ask questions, but also start to realise when not to. And they demonstrate that ability to set goals of themselves, to show initiative, and to follow that through. We believe the senior years at home would provide that in proactive and exciting ways, take advantage of the many opportunities that a prep school provides. One of the biggest errors that pastoral care takes sometimes is they look at the end result, that idea that we get the best exam results because our children are happy. We actually look at it completely the other way around. If we are not fulfilling those basic needs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, such as feeling safe, secure and valued, it might be okay to start with, but further down the line, those quantifiable results will go off track. As those children experience those emotional spikes, taking risks, those heightened emotions, everyone will need some form of help. And we believe that actually in that safe, secure, familiar prep school environment, they are more likely to engage with it. With our tutors having a maximum of 8 children, they see them every day. They have very regular one-to-ones, which build that trusted relationship where they feel free to open up, to be honest, and essentially access that help they really want. That idea of being in that familiar environment where they can pull on happy memories and move forward is vital as they develop. We're very lucky that we've just built our wonderful health and wellbeing centre. I hope later on you'll come and see me down there to ensure that we are optimised for what the world is going to throw. Unfortunately, we don't know all of it yet, so we are setting up to make sure that we are equipped to deal with whatever comes their way. We've talked about the Holmewood Horizons. We want to provide authentic leadership programmes. I do remember my prep school days where the head boy and girl had a title, I think they had a tie, but pretty much they didn't do much. Now we really start to push leadership to be realistic, but also in a way that each child will feel confident in what they can do and develop into. The scale, as you can see on the screen, is vast. House leaders, librarians, green and school council members are coveted leadership positions. But for me, one of the most glorious parts of a job is on a Wednesday morning when every single year 8 comes down and meets up with the year 3s and acts as a buddy. They may read together. They may go off and play games. They may just talk about what's going on in their lives. But those relationships are wonderful. And actually, the wonderful part about it will be when our year 3s eventually move up to year 8 and they can remember how those people made them feel. Indeed, I've actually had year 2s have already asked for certain year 7s ready for the summer term to be their buddy. And on leadership, that amazing value that in the top years of the school, they will have a wonderful supply of subjects to lead, to be part of, to take part in activities with. The education plays a key part. We've already spoken about how the world is changing, how the needs of a child or an adult are evolving all the time. And our My Heart curriculum is specifically engineered to prepare children for the rest of their education and their lives beyond. At the moment, we have very heavy emphasis on things such as safer internet use, social media, how to interact in our society, and financial awareness. We also breathe that strong toolkit for coping strategies, whatever the world may throw at them, making sure they're confident to ask for help, to admit frailty, to know it's okay not to get everything right all of the time. The children really thrive with that hands-on approach we have as we transform a classroom into a courtroom to learn about the idea of British law, or we study food in that way that they know soon they're going to be designing their own menu, perhaps in a senior common room, and knowing what is healthy to eat, what is accessible to them. As they take those first strides to that independent life we talked about them yearning earlier. Sadly, there are enough negative influences on children today via things such as the internet and social media. We create that wholesome learning environment where children are encouraged to immerse themselves in the appropriate things for them, relevant to what they want without too many distractions. I'm just going to finish off with a little story, because some of our pupils, when they leave in year 8, will have been here for about 10 years. I remember a cricket match, our first 11. It was the last game of the season, the last ball, and quite a cheeky wicket-keeper from the other team, they often are, put his hand up as the bowler was coming in for the last ball. He just said, "Guys, this is our last ball of prep school sport. Let's just take a moment to savour it." It's that journey they go on, whether it be music, arts, favourite subject. But I believe being here for year 7 and 8 allows them to complete that journey and those brilliant final years at Holmewood. So thank you.
Good evening. I've got the graveyard shift at the end, so I'm going to set my alarm for 5 minutes and make sure that I stick to it so that you can go and speak to all the interesting students about everything that they do. Just to introduce myself to everybody, so my job is in charge of the co-curricular stuff. So what does that do? Well, basically, that's doing all that stuff outside of the classroom, which is, for me, okay, is what rocks my boat, and it's what makes me love the school environment, and hopefully what we try and add to the environment within the school. With the co-curricular programme, we try and nurture loads of different skills and competencies, okay, that will help prepare the children for where they will be going afterwards. And by staying in year 7s and 8, we feel that they can nurture into those environments. We feel that they can grow in their confidence, things that are common things that we've talked about all the way through. Okay, rather than being swallowed up by going to secondary school, okay, they can flourish and they have the opportunity to be able to develop all these skills. The leadership that they're able to follow and develop, okay, by being those big fishes, okay, it's something that is really precious to them in year 7s and 8. Something that they can really develop, something that they can have no fear of being standing up in front of children who are younger than them, okay, but in order to nurture those skills. the programs that we have, the things like debating society, which enables them to just go and explore all these leadership skills and help their teammates, is a really important and precious thing that we help to nurture and develop. I haven't got loads of words up here, but I've got loads of pictures, okay? And pictures obviously paint 1,000 words. But we can see from these pictures, in terms of our Year 7 and 8 residentials, the Year 7 residential is held at the beginning of the year. Okay? And the purpose of that is to build them all, is bond them all together, is to give them that teamwork. For the new students that are coming in, to help them to acclimatise to the environment that they're coming into. The Year 8 residential is slightly different in terms of it's a celebration of their time here, okay, where they are spending the time that they have spent with some of the people that they spent for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years, okay, of their life, that they can celebrate, and they have that freedom to be able to just express themselves and enjoy themselves without that fear that they might be exposed to when they go into senior schools. We've talked a little bit about the house system, but the house system is pretty unique here in the last couple of years. We've developed the house system so that it is purely student-led. The students dictate the assemblies. We hold assemblies every 2 weeks. Okay, within those weeks that they have off, we sit down and we talk about the things that we want to present within those. And they go away and they present those assemblies. And they do that every 2 weeks. Okay, they organise the teams, they motivate the teams. Okay, and when they go into secondary school, again, they're the people that are being organised. Those are the people that are the followers. Here, they're the leaders. They're the people that are exploring and motivating all those people who are around them. We've talked a little bit about the Leavers programme. And the Leavers programme, again, is a bit of a celebration, but is also preparing them for their life skills that they will be needing when they leave. We have first aid trained qualifications. Okay, we have guest appearances from Catherine Byrne. Some of you might remember her from a few years ago, where she comes in and does an entrepreneur's day, where she talks about how to build a business. Okay, talks about the emotional intelligence that you require in order to be a leader and an entrepreneur. And then they go through the process of putting together a potential business of their own. So those skills that we help to nurture within the Year 7s and 8s continues right to the end of the programme. There is a celebration. They do a lot of charity work and community work. Okay, where they go and Mr. Morgan Jones takes them out to lots of different charities, okay, and they then explore how they can benefit those and really get into lots of nuts and bolts of how to do that. When it comes to sport, we have a strong reputation here, and hopefully Hurst and Brighton will back that up. When they go to senior school, they have to wait till the end of the school in order to have their big tours, to have their celebrations. We have that now in a biannual tour, which leaves in a couple of weeks' time for a cricket and netball tour to Dubai. Next year, we will explore other sports. And so that will run continuously for however long that we need to. We will also start to explore how we can take music, how we can take drama, how they can be involved in those projects and go and see the cultural experiences that are wide and broad. So those are all things that when they go to senior school at Year 7, and I have worked in a senior school, I've worked in local grammar schools, and the Year 7s and 8s do get a little bit swallowed up. Okay, they have to wait until they're in 9, 10, 11, 12 in order to have those leadership experiences, those leadership opportunities, okay, to develop those skills. And we are moving into a world where It is more skills and competencies that are going to dictate the successful students of where they go after their university. So the longer that they can develop those skills, okay, for us, that is really, really important. Just a quick example of what they'll be doing when they're in Dubai. They'll be going to local cultural visits to the souks. They'll be playing against local opposition, so they'll be integrating with local children, also international students. It'll be a fantastic experience, but it's also developing that team spirit. Okay, they might get, if they go, my son, local grammar school, they went within this country for a few days. Okay, they will be going away, they will be developing their independence, they will be developing how they interact with their teammates. And this is all things that we try and nurture through our co-curricular programme, especially in those years 7 and 8.